Hello viewers, welcome to my Doctor Who themed YouTube channel, Who Ventures, and this is my review of Revolution of the Daleks, the New Year special for the 1st of January 2021 by Chris Chibnall. I'm actually filming this on the 5th because I usually film straight after the episode, but the surprise announcement threw me for a loop and my mood changed. So I wasn't in the mood to do my review at that point. But this is what I got dressed up, themed up for the episode. So this is my t-shirt that I wore talk about remember Jack's first appearance. I don't remember now if this t-shirt was about that, but I got it from Threadless years and years ago. And then I also had my hoodie on with 13 on the back, but it's a bit hot right now, so that's why I'm not wearing it right now. See, that was my celebratory sort of outfit. So I'll go through all my notes and tell you what my favourite bits were. So I really liked the text. I love when he puts text on the screen. And I love the fonts they use for the text on the screen. It's just so like Doctor Who font. It's just like, I just get delighted by the fonts. They're just like not sci-fi fonts at all. They're just block letter fonts, and I think that's really funny. So it says, a long time ago, 2019, far, far away, Cheltenham. So I like that little nod, sort of Star Wars parody thing. And so we're back to the end of Resolution of now the Doctor and the fam left and what they're doing with the Dalek left over from Resolution. And then we've got the technology expert about, and then the Dalek has been taken away on a big truck thing. And the driver, he stops off at a roadside burger van, which was very reminiscent of the burger van from when John Sims' Master was about. So I wonder if there's any relation. But he drinks a cup of tea and then he passes out, and then turns out the burger van person is like, well, I thought she kidnapped him because she had a Dalek on her back. Well, apparently she was a secret agent of Jack Robertson, which I didn't really get at the time. I read that on Twitter afterwards. Then we got the titles, and then we're introduced to Joe Patterson, Technology Secretary on a low budget. Leo is the technology whiz. Then Christoph is back as Jack Robertson, and he's doing a roleplay exercise about riot control, and he's got these new Daleks, but they're not they run on AI, so there's no mutants inside them. So I really like the design of the AI Daleks, especially the blue light, and I think they'd look good. They'd be good as a squeezy stress toy. That's what I thought when I first saw the design. So Jack has got his own motivations, and then Jo, she wants it's like my constituency first. She wants to use these as like crowd control droid things. So after all that political stuff, we jump to 79 billion light years away and the Doctor in prison. Now I would have loved, I think they could have stretched a whole series out of this prison location, because all the different inmates were really interesting, and I think a spin-off would be amazing. That would be really cool, like Prisoner Cell Block H, but with aliens. That would be a very cool spin-off, and I know Big Finish could do something like that, but I would love it if it was like on-screen thing and it was live action, because that'd be really fun. Obviously it'd take a lot of budget, but I really loved it. And before, in the trailers we saw a big green wobbly cactus person, but we didn't even get to meet them in the episode, and I thought that was very disappointing. So we see the Doctor's daily routine, and she's got the jumpsuit on. I love the jumpsuit. I think that's a really cool costume. And she's marked off all how long she's been there in chalk on the wall. I loved all the numbers on the jumpsuits as well, but it didn't really explain. I'm still not quite sure what the numbers mean. That would have been good if they'd explained it, if we'd had time in the episode to actually explore the prison more. And then she has this cube food for dinner, which is horrible. I thought it was a really big lost opportunity not to explore that prison and just spend like her side of the episode exploring the prison, and the other, the Fam and Jack solving the issue and then meeting up at the end. I think that could have been more fun, but I really want more of that prison. It's amazing. And then she goes into the pound bit, and it's in cages with all the other prisoners. I think it's that exercise time or something. So there's a weeping, she says hello to a weeping angel, Angela, who's all wired up so she can't do her powers, and everybody's in these special cages so they can't do the powers. Then Bonnie and Clyde are a couple of oods, and then there's Petting, who's called Tiny. And why didn't he have a tiny little jumpsuit on? I think he should have had a tiny little jumpsuit. And the Doctor say, you can't eat the cage. I know, I've tried. And then there's also a silence, and she's like, oh yeah, I forgot you were there. And it's like, oh, I feel sorry for that silent guy, because like, he must be so lonely. The silence people must be so lonely, because like, he's in that prison. It's like, nobody remembers who I am. I've got no friends. I have to start all over again. I have to reintroduce myself. Oh, I feel sorry. I want to give that silence a big cuddle, because it's like, I remember you. It's like, oh, nobody remembers him, and nobody's his friend because they don't remember that they're his friend, and he has to start all over again and reintroduce himself and go through the same spiel. Ah, he must be exhausted. Oh, can we have a figure of the silence guy with his jumpsuit on? Because I want to give him a cuddle. So so after she's got out from the cages, she goes back. The Doctor goes back to her cell, and she's lying on the concrete bed, and she's then just telling herself a bedtime story in prison, and she starts reciting Harry Potter. Look, but I thought it was funny that we have a trans person starting reading Harry Potter. I thought that was funny. It's like, Yabby sucks, J.K. Rowling. And then she is knocking on her cell. She hears, and then we're back with the Fam, and I love that bit where Ryan and Graham, they go to the house TARDIS, and Ryan goes to knock on the door, and the door opens, and Ryan's like, yeah, off. I thought that was really special. And then they go in, and Yaz is all gone conspiracy theorist with tons of notes on the wall inside the console room, and it's like, that's what we could do for finding the Doctor. And we found out the Fam have been back for 10 months. And then Graham and Ryan have found out about this Dalek drone thing, because footage has been leaked online, so they're trying to get Yaz to team up with him. So Jack Robertson's got his own ideas, and Joe who wants to be Prime Minister has got her ideas, and she wants these droid Daleks immediately. Otherwise she'll reveal that he hasn't been paying his taxes. So Ryan, Yaz and Graham, they all team up and go to confront Jack. So and then we're back to the present, and we find out Captain Jack's in prison with it, and he's got his jumpsuit on, and yes, he does look fabulous in the jumpsuit, and he's got this gadget called a breakout ball, and he's done loads of crime to get put in this cell next to the doctor. And I thought, so he used the breakout ball so they can run back to Jack's cell, and then he can dig out his vortex manipulator from his cell, and the doctor says, how did you smuggle that in? And apparently he smuggles everything into places inside his arse, and I thought that's how he becomes a face of boat just ahead, because his arse is so big now that everything else has fell out of his arse, so he becomes just a head, because he's always carrying everything up his bum. I really love that. I love that. And then they get, the 13 actually gets a hug. Is that the first hug? Actually gets a hug, which I've been waiting for her to get a hug for about 2 series. It's like, yay. So I was very happy about that. So then we go back to Leo the Tech Whiz and Jack Robertson, and they're talking about, and Leo's talking about how he's found organic traces inside these Dalek, the original Dalek, and he's actually grew a new mutant. And Jack Robertson's like, what you done that for? You've got to destroy it. So Leo goes to destroy it, but it escapes and jumps on his back and starts controlling him. And he rings his family to say he's going on a business trip, but the Dalek's controlling him. And then the Doctor and Jack are back in her TARDIS and says, gold star for rescuing, which reminded me of Adric. And then they're discussing about how she gave the Cyberman what he wanted, and then she's like, she was in prison for 7,000 offences, and Jack's all like, is that all? It's like, so then we go back to the fam, and they're working through the notes, all the clues they've got, and then the TARDIS starts coming into Graham's front room, and it's like, I really like the bit how they did the wind machines, like, and everyone's like, I thought I liked that bit. And then the Doctor's like, I was in space jail, and Yaz is so angry she shoves the Doctor, and I thought, oh, no hug yet. And then I like how Jack said hi Silver Fox to Graham. I thought that was fun. And then the Doctor finds out about this Dalek thing, and then Leo the Tech Wizard has found that the Daleks have got a mutant farm. They've got all the mutants, and Jack Robertson's got all the casings, so they're going to transport themselves into the casings. So Yaz goes with Jack to investigate these mutant things, and they have a really, really lovely, they go to Osaka and they have a really lovely conversation about the Doctor, and I really like the use of the pronouns, and Jack was saying he never thought he'd see him again, and like Jack was in love with the Doctor when he was a bloke, and Yaz is in love with the Doctor as a woman. I loved how they used the correct pronouns, and I thought it was a really lovely heart to heart, and it really meant a lot, that speech. I thought that was, I think, I wish there was more of that in Jodie's era, like LGBTQ stuff, like more of it, and I wish Yaz had been giving the Doctor hugs from the start of the era, and there'd been more of this type of conversation from the start. And then Jack's quote says, "Enjoy the journey while you're on it, because the joy is worth the pain." And I thought that was a good line. And then Jack's like, and doing stuff, she's like, "Yeah, aren't I good?" And then Yasa says, "You seem to need a lot of praise." And I thought that was good, because that's about her as well. So the Dalek so there's a big Jack wants to blow all these mutants up, and Yas wants to cut off the feud, but then these couple of mutants jump on them, and Jack shoots them. And then the TARDIS, we see the TARDIS vortex again. I love the TARDIS, how the vortex looks in Jodie's era. I think it's amazing. And then we get a really cool heart-to-heart between Ryan and the Doctor again. The writing is really good in this. I just wish Ryan had said stuff like this from the start of series 11. I just think Chibnall took way too long to get to this heart-to-heart writing, which is really good. And then the Doctor's all, "I missed you, yes." I thought that was sweet. So the story is that these mutants, they get into the droid Daleks and start taking over. And then the Doctor's like got a plan. And Jack's all like, "Oh, you don't want to do that." Yes, like. But and then also at one point Jack mentions Rose got struck in a parallel universe. I do agree that there should have been a little bit more of a reaction from the Doctor at that bit, but she was like on a plan. So the plan is to get some of the original Daleks to go and destroy these sort of droid Daleks. So the Dalek big ship arrives, and Jack joins up with these original Daleks. So he's on the Dalek ship now, and he's like, Jack Robertson is like a right idiot. And so Yaz is with the Doctor, and Jack, Brian and Graham and Jack are on this big ship. And I thought that the original bronzy Daleks, they were so cute, because they had the plunges all in the middle, and they look like they're having a little cuddle, and I loved that. I thought they were so cute, and they were like the heroes, like for a bit. So they go and destroy all the droidy Daleks. Then the Doctor's got this plan, and she uses it's a bluff. All the Daleks start flying into the TARDIS, and that looked really cool. But then it turns out they actually boarded the spare TARDIS, and she's tricked them, and she's a hologram. And she's made the TARDIS fold in on itself and go into the void. I thought it was a very cool special effect. I thought it was very interesting because I don't think we've seen anything like that before. Thought that would look really cool. And then after it's all sold, Jack Robinson is like, oh, he's going to be Sir Jack Robinson, and it's like, oh no. And that amused me slightly because somebody's been knighted, actually has been knighted for real, and their work is awful and just not good at all, but they've been celebrated by becoming a Sir, which is really annoying. I don't want to get into that. So Emily Maitlis is on Newsnight talking about him. And then we're back at Graham's house, and like they're going to go in the TARDIS, and Brian's there. And Jack says, oh, Gwen was fine, she fought off a Dalek with her son's boxing gloves. So he's going to go meet up with Gwen, so that's really cool. And then the Doctor's all excited, and she's all like, shall we go the meringue galaxy? Everything's made out of meringue. I thought she's so cute. And then Ryan is like really grown up, and he's sensible, and he talks about he wants to stay on Earth for his mates, and he wants to save the planet. And Graham wants to be with Ryan, his grandson. So it's sad because she's saying goodbye, but Yaz is staying for the Doctor because she's not ready to let the Doctor go yet. So yeah, I'm real happy that Yaz is with the Doctor. And then the Doctor says, 2 hearts, one happy, one sad. And then they get a group hug, and she hugs Ryan, and there's actual hugging, which is like, finally we got hugs. She deserved hugs from series 11 from the very start. So I'm annoyed it took that long for Chibnall to allow them to have hugs. It's like, And then Graham says, you know what, we do get aliens in Sheffield. I thought that was sweet. And then Yaz talks to the Doctor, says it's okay to be sad. And I thought she was going to hold the Doctor's hand, and I thought that would have been really sweet. Because it would have been sort of like a mirror of when the Doctor held Rose's hand. I thought Yaz should have held the Doctor's hand. I thought that would have been really cool, but it didn't happen. It's like, so annoying. And then we see that Ryan and Graham are on the big hill in Sheffield, and Ryan's trying to ride his bike again. And I love this where, and he's like, and Ryan says, you know, they had a troll invasion in Finland. And the Doctor's given Ryan and Graham psychic paper, and Graham mentions something that's happening somewhere else, and they're like, but Ryan says, yeah, but I want to do this first. He wants to learn to ride his bike first. And then the sun appears, and a vision of Grace appears, and they're like, I've got something in my eye. And then Ryan starts to go ride his bike again, and then we get, you're doing it, mate, you're doing it, mate. And then Ryan falls off. I like that they had Ryan falling off instead of like actually doing it, because that I like that, because it's about like he's still dyspraxic. He hasn't magically learned how to ride a bike, but you're doing it, mate. So I have to say thank you to Bradley and Tosin for being amazing. I love you. I thought it was amazing. I was sad to see them go, but I'm really excited to see Yaz and the Doctor, and I hope there's more affection between them and more honesty and openness between them. And regarding the rumours about Jodie, there's always rumours about Jodie leaving every time after every time we see a series of Doctor Who or an episode, which is like really incredibly rude and annoying, and I hope she's not leaving yet. Because I love JD, I think she's brilliant. I hope she stays on for the anniversary and that stays on for series 15 and the anniversary, and then after that I would love Tessa Thompson to be the Doctor. And then I was all ready to do my review, and then we got the announcement introducing John Bishop. I wasn't best pleased, to be honest, because LGBTQ and women, basically the patriarchy stomp on everything, and that we was all set for an all-women TARDIS and to have a cool, and then they have to put a white guy in, a white straight guy. Because apparently we can't, LGBTQ viewers can't have what we want. We have to cater to the homophobes and the bigots, apparently. We have to cater to the old fusty old white men, because we can't. And it just really upset me. And it's not that I don't like John Bishop, and I don't mean that it's not hate for John Bishop, it's just I wanted all women TARDIS team. Why can't we have that? But we never get anything that we want. To be fair, Doctor Who has like brilliant LGBTQ representation, but when we actually have the chance to get an all-women TARDIS team, they have to chuck another white guy in. That's just really annoys me. And it's apparent I haven't looked at the BBC website of that this is who he is. Yeah. Well, apparently it's called Dan. Somebody did have a good point that Dan is an anagram of DNA, so he could be the Rani. Now that could be interesting, but I don't think it is going to be the Rani. I think he's just going to be like a comedy. I think he's replacing Bradley as the comedy person. Like, we don't really need him to come in and be the comedy person, because we could just have intelligent stories and just interesting sci-fi and interesting relationship development with just Yaz and the Doctor. So I'm rather annoyed about John Bishop joining the crew, and I really don't want him to be the new master or anything, because that's still Sasha. That's Sasha's job, and Sasha is amazing, and hope we see more of Sasha. So those were my mixed feelings after I watched the episode. I think so I would love a spin-off of the prison with all the creatures in, and I thought it'd be cool because Brian and Graham, they could meet up with Brian and his grandson and be all like James Bonds and go investigating. So I thought it was overall, I thought it was a good episode, but I think it was just a bit rushed, and I think we could have stuff that could have explored if we'd had if it'd been a two-part. It should have been a two-parter. I think I like Chibnall's writing, but it seems to cram in too much. It doesn't let stuff breathe and let us just consider stuff. So that is my review of Revolution of the Daleks. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and Thank you for watching. Yay.